Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Travis Bowman here to talk to you about the Brawler 64 wireless controllers for the Nintendo 64. Now, these are from Retro Fighters, and it's a completely new controller for your Nintendo 64. Ideally, it's a permanent replacement for the old N64 controllers. Now, these have been a subject of debate for a while, but they have wired versions as well as a wireless version, which is what I have here. Now, the reason that I chose to go wireless is just because of my setup. You know, I've got the N64 and all my other consoles kind of in its own corner, and you know, when I have friends over and we're wanting to play some games together, it's just really hard to, you know, find everybody the correct seating, and you have to move everybody around based on where the N64 is located. So I thought, let's fix that. I'll just get a couple of these wireless controllers, and that way it doesn't matter. You know, you can sit wherever you want to. That should never be a thing to worry about when you've got friends over to hang out, is am I going to be able to accommodate everybody playing together? But this actually combats that fairly well. So, thinking about the original N64 controller here, it's a timeless piece of gaming history and still a subject of debate. A lot of people really just don't like this controller, and a lot of people have a really nice soft spot for it because it's a part of gaming history. You know, we grew up with these controllers. I never hated the thing. It is what it is. You know, the three-prong design, constant subject for debate. You know, why did they do it this way? Well, we know what their idea was behind this. He used the middle prong right here for 3D games, and occasionally you'll come over here to do some stuff on the D-pad for 2D games. This wasn't actually utilized as much as the analog stick was, of course, because this is a brand new time for 3D gaming. It was just becoming a thing. So I understand what they were going for with this. My biggest issue with it these days, you know, I'm 30 years old now. It's my hands. My hands are just too darn big for this. And most of the time, I don't know if you can see it right there. You see that gap right over here? It's my knuckle. When I'm trying to use this thing to play 3D games, my knuckle just rubs against this left prong, and it really sucks. Like, I can try to, you know, fix it, you know, put my hand over here instead, but it's still that knuckle. I guess my hands just have grown too much since 1996, but it's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable for me to try to play some of my old favorites with this thing, and as a result, the N64 isn't the pleasure that it used to be because of the controller. Now, that's just me. You know, I've got pretty big hands, but it's definitely a deal breaker for me. It's making the N64 experience less enjoyable. So, the Retro Fighters, like many N64 designs back in the day, like controllers and even consoles, you've got different colors that you can do too. So this is your typical, you know, gray. It's a lot like the original in many ways. We've got the new analog stick, and obviously the design behind this is to have the N64 controller with a modern update. I mean, all the buttons are there. What's interesting is that you've got dual triggers on the back, which you don't on the original N64. You've got the Z button back here, but they've kind of accommodated for that by giving you two Z buttons on the left and the right, allowing you to use whichever one that you want. And then, of course, you've got your L and R triggers there. So they've got different colors and stuff too, which is very reminiscent of Nintendo in the 90s. So this is the translucent greenish color here that I picked up. I got the gray one first. You can see there's some wear and tear on this. I've used the crap out of this controller, and this is the newer one that I got recently. So other than that, what can we talk about with this controller? I mean, it's got the two-prong design. It's fairly comfortable to hold. It's very reminiscent of some modern controllers that you would see, you know, post Xbox, 360, PS3 era with the two-prong design. We only need one analog stick, of course, because it's the N64 we're talking about. But the buttons are very, very responsive, and I've never had an issue with these controllers. The D-pad, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it beats Nintendo's original D-pad by any stretch of the imagination. The plastic is a lot thicker here, and it just feels so good, like that SNES style D-pad. So this one's kind of like that, but the plastic is a little bit thinner. But how often are you realistically going to use the D-pad on the N64? Probably not very often. And in the few times that you actually would, it's going to be totally fine. I mean, this works for what you would need it for sure. So these controllers are charged with a USB-C cable. And in my experience, the battery lasts extremely long, especially compared to some of the other controllers, other wireless controllers that I've used. These actually last a pretty long time, and I've never actually had an instance where it's like I'm going to pick up this controller to play a game and then they aren't charged. And connecting them is actually pretty seamless. Now let me see if I can pull this off here. So here's what we're looking at. As you can see, I've got a third-party memory pack just kind of stuffed up in there. So here's the trade-off with this. Unlike what Nintendo pushed upon us in the 90s with this rumble, you can have a rumble pack in the back of your N64. If you're going wireless, that's no longer an option. We don't have that on the back of this controller. Instead, we have them on this adapter for the wireless ones. Now, you can get this controller with like a wire. You can get a wired version of this that's actually a little bit cheaper, and it will have that option to where you can put in your memory packs and whatnot. But, for me, I don't really care too much about Rumble. I just want to be able to save my games, right? And this does a fantastic job of that. The only other issue that you might have as far as getting a really nice N64 experience with these wireless controllers, you got to think about Pokemon, Pokemon Stadium. You can actually play those Pokemon games through the transfer pack on the back of the controller there. And that's how you can trade Pokemon from the original, two generations of that game. So that's got to be taken into account, because from my experience, you can't plug that in there and expect it to work. I've heard some people make it work, but me, for both of these controllers, I couldn't get it to read. So as a result, that's why I kind of keep the original N64 controller around, so I can plug it into slot number 3 or 4. And if I want to do some Pokemon stuff, or even like other stuff with the Game Boy games, like Mario Tennis, the Game Boy Color version of Mario Tennis works exceptionally well as far as like DLC and stuff is concerned with the N64 version of that game. So I haven't had like any weird incompatibility issues or anything like that. Now this is going to be 2.4 gigahertz wireless technology, which is probably a lot better, a lot more reliable than Bluetooth is. And you've got 30 feet to play with, and you've got the turbo function as well. So you've got a turbo button here that you can actually utilize. You've got 2 buttons right here, one for the turbo switch and then one to clear it there. I honestly never really use these for the games with the N64, but it's nice that it's there as an option. Honestly, the only experience I've had with the turbo function is that my buddy came over and he was pressing buttons all over the place, and somehow he turned on the turbo button, and we had to try to fix it. Just press clear. I still don't know how he did that, but regardless, that's really the only time I've ever used that. But I mean, connecting these things, once you connect it, it's probably the easiest, most seamless connection for wireless controllers that I've ever seen in any wireless controller before. I mean, it's literally, you just press the start button. See, it's searching for it right now, but my N64 is not turned on, and that it's not going to pick it up right now. But usually, when you press the start button and your N64 is on, I mean, it's like that, man. It's super quick, and that LED will remain a solid red color, and then you're good to go. And The great thing about it too is that if you get up and walk away for a little while, and you have your controller still turned on and the game still turned on, the controller will go into a sleep mode, which is really nice to save your battery life. And then you'll come back, press the start button, and boom, you're connected again. And like I said, there's something to this controller. There really is. It's really special. It's just a really, really nice controller for the N64. Now, the other big thing that I can talk about is the analog stick, because that's the big thing with our original N64 controller. That analog stick is really special. It's only been a thing on the N64, and a lot of these older controllers, you see right now, it's kind of wiggling a little bit. You'll get some lack of responsiveness in your old N64 controller because of the way they designed this. I mean, you can see where this plastic is just rubbing on plastic, and you've got plastic dust in there as a result. So it's kind of rare these days to actually find an N64 controller, original one, that has a really tight stick. And I think eBay sellers kind of take advantage of that. If it's got a tight stick, they'll be sure to let you know and try to get more money out of you. But as far as this stick, it's quite a bit different. We've got like the weird octagonal sort of thing going on here, like the original. And as far as I can tell, I mean, they aren't the same thing by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you can see they're kind of differently shaped, but playing Mario 64 is probably the greatest thing that you can do to test an analog stick. And this one is just as responsive, in my opinion, as the original N64 controller. I mean, this is my new favorite controller for the N64. I can't ever see myself going back and using this controller, and it's mostly because, like I said, my knuckle gets caught up in there and rubs against it, and it's just a really not pleasant experience. Other than that, that's really all I can say about it. I highly recommend it from Retro Fighters. They have done the Dreamcast controller. They did an updated version of the Dreamcast controller that I'm not a big fan of, and I'll do a separate review video for that as well. But if you're looking for a replacement controller around the $30 to $40 range for your N64, and you don't see yourself wanting to buy just another official N64 controller with a loosey-goosey stick there, and you want some wireless capability and function, that's the biggest selling point for me, is that I can sit on my couch and not have to deal with plugging in controllers all the time, because they run across the floor. We've got pets, animals, the vacuum, all that good stuff. So it's just nice to not have to worry about that. It's one extra step that we don't have to take in order to play some of these retro games. Other than that, that's really all I can say about it. I'm really a big fan of these controllers, and I wish I had two more, so that way I never have to worry about having these wired controllers whenever some friends come over. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about the Brawler 64 from Retro Fighters. Do you guys own one? Are you considering getting one? Did this video help you make that decision? I'd be very curious to know all of those answers to those questions in the comments below. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel. That's kind of what I do on the side here, is talk about this retro gaming stuff, but I actually am mainly a musician on my YouTube channel, hence Travis Bowman Music. But you can find video game covers of all sorts of different generations of gaming on my YouTube channel. I would highly encourage you to check that out if you're into this kind of stuff. So anyways, thanks so much for checking out this video on the Brawler 64 from Retro Fighters for your N64. I hope this video helped you guys out a lot. Thanks so much for liking this video, for subscribing, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Bye-bye.